Hello, welcome to the next episode of the Sexy Back Blueprint Show. Today, I am joined by another great guest who I was really excited when he said yes to join me on this podcast. I was on one of his podcasts last year, and I had to obviously get him on to this one. And you may notice he has a slightly different accent to us Brits. So let me introduce you to Jeff. Hello, Jeff.
Hey guys, just gonna sound so like a Neanderthal. My American accent.
So obviously I've known Jeff now for I think it's nearly been a year, and we sort of met through a cohort of trainers where we were sort of trying to sort of level up our businesses, and we been worked with loads of different mentors, almost sort of some of the sort of the best trainers and coaches in the world, so to speak. So it's obviously been great to work with Jeff, and we've had sort of numerous calls together, and we sort of worked quite a bit over sort of the last sort of 12 months in our businesses and sort of trying to grow personally as well. So it's been sort of great to have him there on the end of not so much a phone, but you know, he's always there online. Bounce ideas off of. It's been good.
For sure. Yeah, it's crazy to think it's been a year. This is like, I don't know. There's something about being a parent that you're like, oh my gosh, how is it? Like the just flies by. The days are long and the years are short. You know, it's like, oh man, it's been a year.
I know, and even if every time a birthday comes around, you sort of think, oh, how are you a year older? And here we are, just a year of just doing this, just being in this mentorship. It's been a journey, but time sure does fly.
Mm-hmm.
So Jeff, I wanted to kick off with sort of how did you get into fitness, and sort of the online coaching piece, and sort of what sort of people do you work with?
Yeah. So for me personally, I got into fitness right before I got married. So I was a high school athlete, so I always kind of trained in high school and college, and was when I started trying to do it on my own, and just couldn't really ever stay consistent with anything through college. I would do the, I don't know if you have P90X or Insanity or any of the Beachbody stuff over in the UK, but I would do those, 90-day programs, and I would get shredded, get the t-shirt, send my after picture, and then 6 months later I'd be back where I was. And so I
remember his name. Was it Sean T?
Sean T. Yeah,
that's it.
I still remember like some of the members. Friggin' Tanya from Insanity. If anybody did Insanity, Tanya just like, she just was an animal.
Yes, I do remember doing those many years ago.
Yeah. So that was my life for my whole college career, and even coming out of college for a couple of years, as I would be kind of 3 months on, 6 months off with my fitness routine. And when I was getting married, about 6 months out from getting married, and I was like, I'm going to get in the best shape of my life for my wedding, fully expecting to then, go back to what it was. And there was kind of a moment for me where I was like, if I can't take care of myself, like, it's no longer just for me or to look good. Like, I need to take care of myself because I need to be around for my wife and my family and my eventual kids. So I got to figure this out. So started doing things a little differently than I had done them in the past, and it stuck. So that was a little over 7 years ago now. And I was a high school teacher and football coach, and so I did some of the strength and conditioning for the football coach, and as a football coach, and I enjoyed that. And so I started just kind of training friends because they had asked me. They were like, hey, can I come work out with you? And so I started training friends, and then found that I really enjoyed that, and got into training myself in person a lot. And then COVID happened 3 weeks before my oldest son was born. So my oldest son was born April 9th of 2020, and the world kind of shut down in middle of March. And so that was really only about a year after I got into training. And so it was a little bit of a panic mode where I had left one of the only stable jobs during that time, which was a teacher. Those were the only people who were secured their jobs. Everybody else was in panic mode, and I was one of them. And I had just had my new son, and I was like, I got to figure out what to do differently, because who knows what the world is going to look like and who's going to want to come and train in person and all this kind of stuff. And so that's kind of how I started online. And as I started online, it was around the same time that my training totally shifted. So it was in October of 2020 when I started online. And in the 6 months or so since my son had been born, I realized how drastic my training changed, because at that point it had been 4 years since that I had been on my own fitness journey. And when you're 20, in your early to mid 20s and you have no kids, you can work out however often you want to, and you can do it
Yeah.
for as long as you want to. And eating is not really a challenge because you can, make whatever food you want. And so when I had my son, it changed drastically. Like fitting in my workouts, I couldn't do it 5, 6, 7 days a week like I was doing before. And I didn't want to go as hard because I needed to be able to pick my kid up and have the energy to play with him and be awake in the middle of the night. And eating was harder because I didn't have all the time in the world to cook all my food and do all of this.
Yeah.
There were other responsibilities. And so that was what kind of drove me to want to work with other parents, because the challenges were different than they are when you're in your 20s, and the goals are different too. I think, certainly want to still look good, feel good, all of these kinds of things, but it's more about the feeling good and feeling confident and all of that than it was when I was in my early mid 20s, where I was just like, I just want to have the best six pack on the beach,
Yeah,
kind of
100%.
thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think once you have kids, it is, especially when they're young, it is more just almost sort of trying to be as healthy as you can, as opposed to sort of trying to, sort of as you sort of said,
Yeah.
having the best six pack on the beach. It doesn't really matter. Your kids don't really care about things like that. You sort of want to be more present and be around for the kids, as opposed to be in the gym training every hour of the day. And that's something actually I've noticed actually on a little bit more on your social media. Your training sort of changed even slightly more differently in the last sort of few months, hasn't it? You've sort of if you leveled up a little bit more, you seem to be doing a little bit more training yourself.
Like in terms of pushing myself with my workouts
Yeah,
and things like that.
yeah,
Um, so I actually got a coach. I
yeah.
got a coach for myself. His name's, shout out, Andrew Coates. Andrew Coates, he's a good follow. Coates. Andrew Coates Fitness on Instagram. One of the best guys in the industry. And I just reached out to him and I asked for a coach because I honestly was just like tired of coaching myself and didn't have the bandwidth. I think as parents, you only have so much RAM to put forward. And I was coaching my clients and I was trying to put out valuable stuff on social media for people who aren't clients. And I was trying to take care of my kids and be a husband to my wife and build a business and all these things. And I was like, I don't want to come up with my own workouts. And
Yeah,
even when I came up with them, I would get to the, halfway through it and I wrote it. So I'm like, I don't really need to do that. Like there was nobody holding me accountable. Doesn't mean that I wasn't still working out hard or anything like that, but having a coach kind of outsourced it and gave me the accountability and the support to do it. And so now I don't have to think. I just show up and I work out. And part of it too is he's great at a great reminder of, I think we do this. I don't, when I was doing my own thing, I would just kind of be like, all right, what do I have time for right now? And so I would build it. And so it'd be a little harder to put together some consistent workouts. And so when he's building it, I'm like, all right, I got to do this plan that we have. And so I'm able to be more consistent with my exercises. And so I'm seeing more progress over the course of 6 months of doing the same stuff versus just being like, all right, what do I have time for today?
yeah.
And so you can slowly make progress that way.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. That obviously, even as coaches, obviously, almost sort of like how we sort of met, we invested in ourselves by sort of trying to sort of level up our business. So we hired other coaches to sort of help us with our business.
Yeah.
As you sort of done there, you've almost hired a coach to sort of still help you with your own personal fitness journey,
Yeah.
because you're sort of trying to put more time and effort into your clients and coaching your clients so they can reach their goals. Where actually some of the time you don't really have that capacity to, as you sort of said there, to be able to put time aside to create your own workouts and to really give it
Mhm.
110%. Whereas that accountability, exactly like we had for our mentorship with our coaches,
Mhm.
the accountability is there, and almost like our clients, the accountability is there that they can rely on us, and they know that they've got us sort of knocking on their door, sort of seeing how the workouts went or why they haven't done certain habits, and sort of, you know, having the weekly or monthly check-ins that we do with them. We're there to
Mhm.
support them, almost sort of like sometimes that's what we, even as coaches, we still need coaches ourselves to sort of to push
Yeah.
ourselves, whether that's personally or sort of with our businesses.
Yeah. Well, and to be able to have a sounding board too, and to learn, right? The idea that I've figured it out, and can't learn anything from somebody who's been doing it longer than I have, or has more experience than me, is ridiculous. And so I've certainly learned things about training and about coaching and all of this stuff from having a coach. Like, I've turned around and then been able to apply that and help my clients more, um, as well as getting more out of it for me. So this, I know you wanted to chat about this, but this past weekend I was at an event with a bunch of other coaches, some of the, best in the world, and to be able to lift like with everybody and be kind of at the top of that group. I don't think I would have been there had I not been training with Andrew for these past 6 months. But to be able to kind of
Yeah,
get myself up to do this workout and kind of keep pace with all these other elite trainers was kind of the, oh wow, I'm able to do this as a result of months and months and months of training. Not that I was necessarily training to keep up with them for this one workout, but the idea that like I could just do it though. That was, I think, and that's what we talk about with parents is, and with my clients, is you want to train so that whatever comes your way, you can just do it without hesitation. And so the fact that I could just step into this workout and not worry about, all right, am I going to be able to keep up with them? Is this exercise going to work for me? Whatever it was, I was able to just be like, no, I'm good to go. Like, let's get after it. And
yeah,
that can happen not just with a workout, but like, oh, so and so wants to go for a bike ride or a hike, or my kids want to go play in the pool, and I don't have to worry, I don't have to be in my head about whether or not I can do it. I feel prepared.
yeah. It's a completely different sort of level of fitness that you sort of need for those sort of tasks. And I think that brings me quite nicely onto, as you just sort of said, you went away, and again you put it on social media, and it just almost does go to show that these things can happen, and these sort of weekends will come up in our lives, whether it's, I don't know, a weekend away or a wedding or a certain event, whatever it might be. But obviously you went away. You've been, obviously, as you sort of said earlier, you went away last weekend, and you were away a couple of weekends ago with another group of
Mm-hmm.
coaches. You sort of been away twice for whole weekends. Obviously, the first one when you went away, obviously you mentioned it was sort of tough to get all your calories in, so your food was slightly different. You weren't training as much, and I think you even put on there, I think your steps were sort of under sort of 5,000 a day, because almost you're sort of sitting in
Yeah.
rooms listening to sort of conferences and listening to other coaches talk and coach you through things for sort of 8 to 9 hours a day. And
Yeah.
I think you mentioned you put on, I don't know, 2 pounds in body weight, and then very quickly you sort of lost it again. So my question to you is, what did you do to almost get yourself back on track after having that sort of blip and that sort of weekend away?
So I mean, I think that's the best question, and one of the biggest things, I think, for both of us that we see with clients, parents, and just everybody, is it's not the event, it's the legs of the event. Like, how
Yeah,
much longer does this thing linger, in the bounce back time from that? And so there were a couple things that I always tell my clients and that I tried to put into practice, which is, um, do what you can while you're there. So being prepared as best I could, because I knew that there was going to be opportunities where, I was going to be out. I would probably have a drink or two, or, we'd have pizza, or we'd have, like, I knew that food quality was going to be a little bit lower. And so I brought with me, this is like a simple thing if you're traveling, I brought with me uh protein powder in little Ziploc baggies, and the best form of a protein bar that I could find, that wasn't, those aren't necessarily sensational, but it was better than nothing. And I had those with me so I could snack on those throughout the conference. I did the best I could with my breakfast. I did the best I could with my lunch. And I did the best I could with my dinner. Was it perfect with my movement or workouts or anything like that? No. But by being intentional with those little things, it kind of kept it top of mind that I was still being conscious of my health and my nutrition. So it's not necessarily that I was trying to make the weekend perfect or be, quote unquote healthy or on track over the weekend, but doing those little things kind of just keeps top of mind that, like, hey, I haven't just said screw it for the whole weekend.
Yeah.
I have my moments and my opportunities to enjoy myself and have a drink and have some cheesecake or whatever it is. And I didn't count calories. I didn't, really worry about any of that over the weekend, but I was still having some of those habits in place so that when I came back was able, that was still top of mind. Another thing was preparedness again, was I had food ready for me when I got home. So the meal, I don't meal prep, but like I had 2-3 days worth of like chicken and peppers and onions and stuff like that I do for my lunch already made from the week before, and I just froze them so that I had them when I came home. I had some groceries for, to get me through a couple of days so I didn't come back and have an empty house
Yeah.
and be scrambling. That was another thing. And then the other thing too was I had my coach. So I told my coach, like, hey, I'm going away. I'm gonna come back. And he was expecting me to get my workout in on Tuesday when I got back. And so I got my workout in on Tuesday when I got back. And this most recent weekend, I came back on Sunday. And so back on Sunday. And so the plan was for me to work out on Monday. And I was just so jet lagged because it was 3 hours in the wrong direction. And we had the time, change and all this. And I was just zonked. And we were going so much that weekend. I got like very little sleep with the time change. I was fried. And so I messaged him on Monday. I was like, hey, I'm not going to be able to do my workout today. I need to nap and try to function. And he was like, all right, that's fine. We'll just adjust your week and we're back on track now. And so today I had, I was back on track and we're ready to rock and roll. And so even if it had that extra day, was able to kind of get back on. So the two sides of it that I always tell my clients and that I tried to live up to was being prepared as best I could, minimizing I don't know if I like the phrase minimizing the damage, but keeping some of the habits up and just being conscientious during the weekend. And then having the support and the accountability when I got back to get back on track. Those were kind of the three main pillars.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you said was obviously the whole being prepared, obviously expecting to almost sort of it's not going to be 100% the weekend, being able to take the protein bars and the protein powder away with you, almost sort of having something there that you can snack on, as opposed to just being able to resort to, I don't know, a convenience of a vending machine or a buffet meal all the time. It's nice to have those sort of snacks with you that are slightly better options than other things that may be on offer. And then getting straight back into it and just rescheduling in a workout, and exactly sort of what I said to my clients, try and find time in the diary, allocate that time in your diary for the workout, where you were supposed to do it on a Monday and then you just changed it and you put it straight back into the diary for a Tuesday at a more convenient time, where sort of some people will almost skip over that entire workout and almost sort of write the week off. And then by the time you've written that week off, the month goes by. And then that's sort of where it's almost sort of like, I think we've mentioned this before, you don't get fit from eating one salad and you don't get fat from eating one donut. These are long things that take to implement, whether it is a bad eating or good eating. They take long times to implement, to have an effect on your body. It's not just going to be an overnight thing. And almost having that one event or two events over those 2 weekends, and obviously, as you said before we sort of start recording this, you've got nothing now planned for a few months. So it's almost like you can really get back on track and stay focused. And it's just having that, as you sort of said, having the legs, how it further it goes on into the week is how more it's going to affect you mentally and physically. But yeah, getting straight back into it is obviously the thing to do, and having been prepared to be able to do that.
Yeah, and so the other side of it is, when you think about whether it's exercise, nutrition, or whatever, like we can get really hung up on the minutia, of the day to day, when we really need to kind of zoom out a little bit. So the idea that, like, for instance, if I miss a workout, oh, I've ruined my progress, or I have a weekend even off. I had 2 week. I had so I traveled on a Thursday all the way through a Monday. I got delayed in Dallas for an extra day. So I was gone for 5 days for that first weekend. And then I was Friday to Sunday. So that was 8 days out of a month that I was not at home. I am the same weight right now as I was before I started all this travel. I did my workout today and my strength was the same as it was, even though I've missed more workouts this month than I have in 6 months. My energy levels are back after a week. And so we can get hung up on the day to day, but it's the important part is it was those 8 days. It wasn't those 8 days plus days on either side of it. So that helps. But we can also kind of get hung up on, oh, I had the pizza, or I missed the workout, or I did this thing and it derailed me. When if we zoom out, those have much less impact if you go by a month or even by 6 months or a year on what you're going to do. Like if I'm doing 3 workouts a week for a year, that's 150 workouts. You don't think that if you did 130 workouts, that you're gonna still make progress, and that's missing 2 a month for 12 months. I mean, like, you can still make great progress not hitting 100%, and not shooting for 100% oftentimes helps us to stay better on track. So the idea of, like, I knew I was going to eat pizza one of those nights, and so I ate the protein bar and I drank the protein shake leading into it because I knew I wasn't going to get protein and I wanted to be able to eat the pizza without thinking about it. And so I was like, I got my protein as best I could. I'm not starving going into this, so I'm not going to eat a whole pizza, but I can have this pizza and not really worry about it because I know that tomorrow morning I'm going to have eggs and potatoes for breakfast.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fine.
And the big question I'm going to ask is how many strawberry daiquiris were consumed over that weekend?
Strawberry margaritas, yeah.
Those strawberry margaritas.
Yeah, if it's pink, then it's my drink. That's I got no shame whatsoever. I was getting ridiculed a little bit by some of the other coaches. I was like, listen, you guys can drink that, whatever it is and try to look cool, but this is delicious. It was more than a couple, especially we did I did one of the dinners. I paid a little bit extra to do the dinner in Dallas with all the speakers one night, and it was an open bar, like, with some top shelf stuff. So it was like I was drinking Patron margaritas. Those went down real easy.
Wow.
Those went down real smooth. But so I didn't really keep a ton of track, but I didn't drink anything in Seattle because we were going out to dinner at like 8 p.m. local time, which was 11 p.m. my time. And I'm like, guys, I just got to go to sleep. I'm so tired right now. Like, the idea of having an alcoholic beverage right now is just tired just thinking about it. But in Dallas, I was doing okay.
Good. I had to ask because I think it came up on when I was on your podcast. We were talking about the pink drinks. I thought I had to bring it up and ask the question.
if nothing else, man, like I said it to somebody the other day. I said it's like, I was talking to Andrew. I was talking to my coach, and his big thing, because he's kind of grown his following and his brand pretty substantially over the last few years. And we were talking about personal brand, and I was just joking. I was like, I want people to know nothing else about me, that I love pizza and pink drinks, like if you forget everything else, like, because at least, like, that seems silly, but it's also like a messaging thing that, like, if all my clients tell me about it. Like for Christmas, I get little nips of tequila and things like that. And there's something to being like, my trainer drinks the fruitiest sugariest girly drinks and has pizza and loves it. And there's something to like lifting the veil a little bit, I think, on what needs to be done in order to stay in shape and not try to be perfect or anything like that.
Yeah, and again, like one of our coaches in the in the mentorship, John V,
John, yeah,
who loves a donut, and that's
donuts, yeah.
his whole thing is, and all his social media is all around donuts. And again, it just goes to
It's
show
his
that
logo, yeah.
it's even his logo and all his Facebook groups, all his whole business is all just that one donut. But it just goes
Yeah.
to show that even us as coaches, we're not sitting here eating blended chicken and protein shakes all day every day. We are
No.
normal people. We're drinking pink drinks, we're eating donuts, and
Mm-hmm.
we're
Mm-hmm.
we're just enjoying life, and we're getting through, and we're working out, and we're sort of trying to stay healthy. We're doing exactly the same as what everyone else is trying to do. And it's exactly what we coach our clients to do, to just stay on track, enjoy those weekends, live in those moments, have that
Yeah.
donut, have that piece of cake, have that margarita, and then just get straight back on track the next day. And as long as you prepare for it, like you did when those weekends away, there's gonna be no problem and you're not all of a sudden going to fall off the track and put on kilos and kilos of, or pounds and pounds of body weight just because you had that one blip of a weekend.
No, not at all. Well, so like even this past weekend, the one in Seattle, like we got dinner delivered to us at the gym. So like this was nuts. Like you would have been like, this is bonkers. But we started our workout at like, so we did this whole day of learning and practical stuff and all this kind of stuff. So we were going for 12 hours at this point, and we started our workout at like 7 p.m., which is for me 10 p.m. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm living on caffeine and a dream right now. Like I had been up since 3:30 local time because of my internal dad clock, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even see straight right now. And then we worked out with a bunch of trainers. We're going nuts. And then we had afterward, we delivered like barbecue, like, pulled pork and, and chicken on sandwiches, and we had like pecan pie for desserts. And some of the like most in shape people you'll ever see are there eating this food that wouldn't, be considered quote unquote healthy. And this was our post workout meal of 20, like, couple guys who've been on the covers of magazines, who train celebrities. Like these level of people are sitting there eating a pulled pork sandwich and a slice of pecan pie after a workout. Like, is that what they do every day? No, but that was part of the experience. It was part of what we did. Now, earlier in the day for lunch, we all had like a lean beef with veggies and potatoes. That was kind of what lunch was that day. Most people were snacking similar to me during the day, and then we had a decent breakfast, most people during the day. But one meal of, oh, I'm having a pulled pork sandwich, and it was like guys who could cut glass with their abs were sitting there eating, pecan pie and be like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. And we're all like, yeah, it is. This is really good. So it doesn't have to be that you're eating,
No, of course not. Of course not.
boiled chicken and broccoli for every meal.
No,
Tofu.
of course not. That's exactly right. And I think and again, so obviously you just said there, you obviously coach parents, and obviously one of the things was we're touching on quite a lot here is the nutrition sort of piece, and having those weekends away and almost sort of losing control a little bit on those weekends. But what's sort of the top thing that sort of parents come to you, or their biggest struggle in sort of weight loss? What's one of the biggest struggles they have and they come to you for?
I mean, it kind of is fitting nutrition or fitting fitness into their life. So were they to articulate it like this? Maybe not, but the challenge is I think for parents, and I think you and I have talked a lot about this, is parenting is a one-way street for so much of their lives. Like it is if you were friends with your kids, you would be like, this is a terrible friendship, like this is a even I have a 3-year-old, like this is a emotionally abusive, like he hit me, told me he didn't like me and he didn't want me, all in a span of like 45 seconds this morning before even 7 a.m. Like that was how my day started. Like this is an emotionally abusive relationship that I'm a part of with my toddler. Okay, this is a one-way street. We are pouring out, pouring out, pouring out. And they have their nice moments and they say sweet things and they're cute. And I'm not dismissing all that, but it is very much, 95% going that way toward them. And so I think we'll show up for our kids if we're exhausted, or we'll do anything for our kids oftentimes, but taking the time to prioritize ourselves in the midst of that. And it's not even that we're intentionally not doing it, we just parents haven't oftentimes figured out how to do it, because there's nothing, I've changed jobs, I've moved, I've experienced the loss of loved ones, all kinds of stuff. There is nothing more life altering than having children. Like I just can't think of anything that fundamentally changes your day to day more than having kids. And so once you can't do so many of the things that you used to be able to do, it totally upends your life. And so the idea of like, oh, I'm gonna do a workout, when am I gonna do it? How am I gonna fit this in? How am I gonna, I'm cooking a macaroni and cheese meal for my kid and then he doesn't like it because it's not in the right bowl, and so then I got to go to this other, and he won't eat it in, even if I put it in the right bowl, so I got to do a whole nother. So I've made 3 meals for my kid and I haven't even cooked dinner for me, so now I get everybody asleep and it's 8 p.m. and I got to cook dinner for me. What do I want to eat? Well, I want to eat the leftover mac and cheese that my kid didn't eat because it's just
Simple,
there and I don't have
easy go-to. Yeah.
I don't have to cook it. Yeah. So it's a matter of kind of prioritizing, I think is one of the biggest challenges for parents, where we're just pouring out, pouring out, pouring out, and we haven't figured out a way to make ourselves a priority. And so then there's the issues of the fundamentals of doing it. But oftentimes it's, hey, I did this before I had kids. I was in decent shape before I had kids, and now I have kids and I'm up 20 pounds and don't know how I would change anything in my life to fix it.
Yeah, and I think it's again, I think we mentioned this on possibly your podcast about being selfish, and almost sort of trying to prioritize ourselves a little bit more than maybe we used to, whether that is with our workouts or going to the gym or fitting something in at home, or prioritizing a certain meal. We almost sort of need to be a little bit selfish sometimes because we want to be healthy. We want to sort of be around long enough to obviously see our kids grow up. And sometimes, to be able to do that, you have to be selfish and sort of put yourself first and set yourself as sort of priority number one, even if it's just sort of for an hour or two a day. So you can get that workout in. You can prepare some meals that are easy, that you can just sort of either pull out the freezer or pull out the fridge, that are already prepared, and you just sort of got to warm them up or cook them through, and they're almost sort of done, and you've got a meal, as you sort of said there, making sort of 3 batches of mac and cheese. All you're going to want is to eat one of those, because nobody wants waste food, and also it's done, you're tired, you just want to eat, and you just want to get on with the rest of the day. So sometimes it is all about being selfish, putting yourself first, having just prioritizing a little bit of time each day to prioritize your own health and well-being.
Well, and it can feel selfish, but it's actually not. Like it can feel selfish to prioritize yourself, but it's actually selfless, because if you think about who you are as a parent, when you're exhausted, when you don't have energy, when you don't feel good about yourself, when you don't feel confident, all these things, that's not who any parent imagines themselves being. You know, when I'm exhausted, I'm short with my kids. I'm less patient. I'm less likely to want to play games with them. I'm more likely to want to put on the 95th episode of Bluey, you know, or I don't know if you have you watched it since we talked. I remember I was like, you got to watch Bluey. I don't know if you have it in the UK yet, but
I don't think we've got that over here.
dude, if you don't have it, you got to get it. It's so good. YouTube it. Or whatever it is, you know, put on another Disney movie for the 900th time just to like, because I don't have it in me to parent. And prioritizing yourself, not again like, oh, I'm so much higher above my kids, but it's I have to take care of myself so that I'm better able to take care of my kids. Because you're a better version of yourself when you're confident. You're a better version of yourself when you have energy. You're a better version of yourself when you feel good. And there's that moment where like you get to the end of the day, like my youngest son is still jacked up with the time change, and so he didn't go to sleep last night until like 9:20, which was I was like I wanted to go to bed half an hour before he got to sleep. Like that's I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, dude, go to sleep. But the idea that like if I hadn't made it a priority at some point earlier in the night to, all right, I'm going to cook and make my own dinner. At that point, I don't know what I would have done for dinner. I probably would have eaten whatever the leftover was, or things like that. Like, and also my ability to be patient with him at 9:20 at night when he's been fighting sleep for 2 hours. I don't know how I would have responded to him in that moment. If I'm like, dude, I'm exhausted. I want to go to bed. I have to wake up at 4:30 tomorrow morning, and you're cutting into my sleep time right now and my
Yeah.
time with my wife, you know, that time that we have together. And this is just you screaming your head off. I don't know who I would have been had I not, like, this is so simple. Had I not eaten a meal at that point, had I not been able to get a workout in, or like I'm not saying I was in a great mood at that point, but I certainly was in a better mood than I might have been otherwise. And so it's flipping that mindset about like, no, you're worth the time, and you're being a better. There's a lot of guilt associated with taking the time, and you know, the self-care thing feels selfish, and it's not. Like, taking care of yourself is important. And I hated being away from my kids for those 2 weekends. I really didn't like it. I didn't like leaving my wife with it. I missed them like crazy for those 2 weekends. And part of the reason why I'm not going anywhere for 6 months is because I didn't like being away from them.
Yeah.
But it was huge for me and my personal growth, and to feel like I was being challenged and stepped out of my comfort zone. And I did all these things. And for me, that was a big thing. So I came back all jazzed up, and felt like I was refreshed. And even though I was like tired physically from the weekend and everything that was there, I was ready to come back and be in dad mode. You know, it's there's something to building yourself up, filling up your own cup so you have more to pour out for
Yeah.
your family, because you can't pour from an empty cup.
No, I love that. That's a great analogy to have. And part of it as well, again, you were saying about being more present. It's almost you want to. It's leading by example as well. You want if your kids see you
Yeah.
working out, see you eating certain foods, they're more than likely going to follow suit. Like my one of my kids now asks now, but next time you go for a run, can I come with you? He's getting into that.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting into fitness, and he wants to come and join in and work out with us when we train at home, or we go out for a run. He wants to join in. We're always out hiking and going out on the bikes and all sorts of things like that. But actually, he's sort of wanting to do a little bit more and push himself, which is great, because that's only because we do it as parents, and he can see that what we're eating and what we're doing physically, that he wants to
Mm-hmm.
join in. And it's being that role model for them, that they can almost sort of, they're leading by example, and they want to follow in your footsteps. So if you do it, they tend to want to do it. So it's great to sort of try and get them involved as much as you can, where it's safe to. So I'm not saying take them to a full metal gym to start working
Yeah.
out, but doing stuff at home and sort of jumping around the living
Yeah.
room, go out for long walks and runs and things like that. Kids love to join in, to sort of trying to get them involved as well, where it doesn't feel as selfish, And then
Mhm.
you sort of two birds with one stone. You spend some great quality
Yeah.
time with the kids, and you get your workout in as well. So that's another thing. Sort of try and incorporate them into the routine as well.
Yeah, we definitely I remember you brought that up when we chatted on mine, which is yeah, the double dipping. Which I think is huge. Like, all right, I'm gonna take my kids for a walk. We're doing three things with this. All right. They're gonna get some fresh air. Like my kid loves to be like, we're like, all right, it's a game. How many dogs are we gonna see on this walk? Right. And we're just counting the dogs. And he's like all jazzed up. Oh my gosh, how many dogs do you think we're gonna see, Dad? And so he's all jazzed up about that. We're getting some vitamin D, which reduces stress, all these kinds of things. We're getting our steps in, we're getting movement in, and we're doing three things at once. And you're being kind of the version of the parent that you want to be, but you're also taking care of yourself. And so that double dipping is huge. And then I love what you said too about being an example or one of again, I feel like I'm just pumping Andrew up here a bunch, but one of Andrew's like most viral thing that he's ever said is parents expose your kids to gym environments early so that they become more comfortable with it, because a lot of the parents that I work with, and I'm sure this is the case for you, we get intimidated by the gym. Whether working out at home is great, but there's something just really cool about working out in a gym environment. That family is really huge if you get there, and I think a lot of people get intimidated by it, like, oh, I you know the really jacked person over there is thinking whatever about me, and one, that's not true at all. If anybody notices you and you're newer to the gym, they're like, oh, good for them. Like anybody who's not like a total asshole, for lack of, pardon my French, like anybody who's not a horrible person at the gym, who's been there for a while, who sees somebody new at the gym, is like, good for them. Like,
Yeah,
and is probably more likely to encourage you than anybody else. But there's also something to like, all right, if my kids are around this, then maybe they're going to be a little bit less intimidated to step into the gym and feel like they belong there than when they, if they go through their life and it's a foreign concept to them and they can be intimidated by it. So like my son, that role model thing. So my son, every now and then my older one will come with me if like daycare falls through or something like that, and I'm
I've seen it
training
on your
particularly in
your
a
social where he sits there, and yeah, that's
literally
really good.
last night, yesterday he did this. So I'm training like high school girl athletes. Like these are going to go division, I don't know if like Division 1 is like the highest level of college athlete in the States. And so like these are elite high school athletes going to go play at the college, at the university level, in lacrosse, right? So these are phenomenal athletes and they're in there, and I had to bring him with me because my wife had a doctor's appointment, and just that was where it was. So he came with me, and he's sitting there watching them, but he's also playing with them. They're engaged with him. He's like running their sprints with them. He like knows it. So now one day a week, he comes with me to the gym anyway, and there's a daycare upstairs in the morning. And so he comes while I train my clients in the morning on that day. And he knows that room, right? It's one room. He calls it the big room. It's a big open space with turf and weights and things. He's like, Daddy, can we go to the big room? And we go down there, and he pulls out the med balls, and he pulls out and he's running around, and he's so excited about it. And he doesn't get this at 3 years old, but the gym is a normal place for him. And
Yeah,
not everybody's going to have that scenario, but even like people who come to the gym, clients of mine who put their kids up in the nursery, I tell them, don't go out the main door that's just right by the nursery. Come down the stairs and come out through the door that's by this big room, and show them this. Like walk them around it. Like let this be a comfortable place for them, even from a young age, because they'll want to go, and you see there's something to being a kid where you're free, and you remember being jumping off or crazy stuff, and there's no inhibitions. And so letting that no inhibitions overlap with fitness and seeing you do it and seeing that space too, this is a normal thing to do. And I don't know
yeah.
where, what this is going to do for my kid down the road, but I know from talking to a lot of parents who the first time they step in the gym is with something that we're doing together. They're terrified. It's intimidating. We don't know where to go or what to do or things like that. And so having it be a comfort level of like, no, you belong here, particularly with moms. I do this, I have to have this conversation a lot. They feel like they don't belong in the weights section is like, no, you belong there just as
Yeah.
much as the guy who's on, you know, all kinds of steroids and has no neck and his arms are the size of your whole body, right? You belong there just as much as that guy. And so does my kid.
Yeah, and I think more and more, especially in today's world, there's so much more on social media about people don't care what other people are doing in a gym
No.
environment. They may see someone new walk in, almost look at them and think, "Oh, don't recognize them." Headphones back on, press play, and carry on with their workout. And
Yeah.
as you sort of said, the majority of people won't really batter an eyelid. It's just oh, good for you, new person. Oh, they're doing something different. They push themselves out their comfort zone. No one batters an eyelid. I don't know if
No.
a girl comes into the weights area, there's no one there is going to push them away. Or as you just said, most people just sort of let them get on with it. There's no one's gonna
Yeah.
make them feel intimidated, anything like that. They're just gonna do their workout because all they want to do is do their workout, get out
Yeah.
and go home and get on with their lives, which is exactly the same as
Yeah.
what everyone else wants to do. So yes, the
Well said.
getting kids into that environment early, I mean, yeah, it will then show them that it's not an intimidating place. It's a perfectly safe place to be, and you're welcome to be in every aspect and every area of that big room that you can work out in.
For sure. Well, and again, I really don't mean this to sound immodest, but I'm one of the, I'm the head trainer to some degree at my gym that I still train at in person. So I work online, but I also still train in person at the gym. And so there's a picture of me when you walk in the door, right? Like there's a picture of me and the other couple trainers, you know what I mean? So I'm a more well-known person at the gym than the average gym goer.
Hmm.
And I can still get through 90% of my workouts without anybody say anything. And most people are like, oh, I didn't even see you working out there. Now, every now and then somebody will come up and talk to me that I know, because I know most of the people, just, hey, Jeff, how's it going? Whatever. And we might have a little chat, during a rest or whatever. But I'm I would be somebody who, and I was super self-conscious of this when I first started training at a gym. I was like, I don't want to work out there because I don't want people looking at me, because I don't want them to, like, you know, minutely look at my form or what exercises I'm doing or anything like that and like overly judge me. And then one day I had to do it there because of something. I think I was, packing up, or, I didn't have my weights at home. And so I was like, okay, I just got to do it here. And I got through my whole workout and nobody looked at me, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'm not the center of the universe, even though you can kind of feel like that,
Yep.
like, oh, the whole world is looking at me. Like, nobody's looking at you. And even if they are, it's like for a half a second, in the same way that you do. Like, go next time you go somewhere, like you're walking through a public place, like think about, you're sitting at a restaurant, like how much time are you spending looking at any individual person? Like, you're doing your own thing, you're engaged in whatever it is that you're doing. But for some reason we think that we're the person that everybody's looking at, and it's just not the
Yeah.
case. Everybody, like you said, everybody's there. Most people at the gym are looking to leave.
Yeah.
That's like they're,
Yeah.
they're looking to just get it done and get out and get
Get
home.
in and get out.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so there's no, you don't have to be concerned that you don't belong there or people are looking at you. I'm a trainer, and I'll see more than what everybody else is doing. And even I see some dumb things being done at the gym. I'm sure that you do too, where I'm like, you're going to hurt. That's the only time where I'm like paying more attention to something, is I'm like,
Yep.
this person might hurt other people with what it is that they're doing right now. If they're going to hurt themselves, I'm like, that's pretty dumb, but I'm not going to, even as a trainer, I'm not going to go and give unsolicited advice to
Yeah.
somebody unless I really know them. But if I see somebody doing something dumb that I'm like, you're going to hurt other people, then I'm going to go up and say something. But that's the only scenario. And that's when I have my work hat on,
Yeah.
but I don't think I've ever had somebody come up to me and tell me anything about my workout, other than maybe to ask a question about what it is that I'm doing. They're like, oh, I like that exercise. What is it that you're doing?
Yeah.
That's really it.
Yeah. And that's it. People are just wanting to get in, do the workout, and get out. They don't care what other people are doing. And even I don't know, even when people sort of, I don't know, slam the weights down to the floor, people
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden they might glance over at them and then carry on as if sort of nothing's happened. There's not a massive scene, anything like that. People just go on with it, which is exactly the same as a new person walks in. No one's gonna batter an eyelid. They'll just walk in, just get on with the workout. Most of the time, people don't even notice them walking in because if they're so involved in their
Yeah.
own workout and in whatever they're listening to, a
Yeah.
podcast, hopefully this one, or the radio, music, anything like that, then they're not going to be bothered by other people in the gym. So obviously,
No.
conscious of the time, and obviously we taken that and nearly an hour of us talking, and we could just go on and on, especially talking about parents and all the problems they come to us with, and sort of trying to resolve all these struggles. But if there was one tip that you could give for listeners to take away from this podcast, what would it be?
I always kind of come back to, don't focus on what it is that you're trying to take away. Think about what you can add, right? So think about it, flipping it on a positive side of it. So when you think about your workouts, right, don't reach for the moon and then feel like you got to take some stuff away, right? Just, all right, if I'm not doing anything, don't go for 5 workouts, go for 2 30-minute workouts. Like if I'm getting 5,000 steps, don't try to shoot all the way to 10,000, try to get to 6,000. If I'm eating no protein, right, let's try to add one source of protein to one meal, right? Let's try to add a vegetable to one meal or a piece of fruit or something like that. And versus being like, oh, I'm going to, stop drinking soda. Okay, you can do that if you want to, but like instead of trying to be like, oh, I'm not doing all these things, and then you don't have anything to fill it with. You have this void from all the things that you've taken away. Oh, I'm not going to watch TV. Well, what are you going to do with that time? Otherwise, you're just going to go back to the things that you always did. And that's where the cycle that I always got into was like, I'm just going to not eat anything that's delicious. I'm just going to eat chicken and broccoli or fish or quinoa, or I don't even know what else stuff that I ate. And I'm just going to eat all these foods that I would never actually consistently eat if I wasn't on a diet. And so it was when I changed that to like, all right, what is one thing that I can add in to my nutrition? What's one thing I can add into my exercise? What's one thing I can add into my activity? What's one thing I can add into my professional? And so instead of, I'm not going to watch Netflix at night, just I'm going to add in 10 minutes or 10 pages of reading before I go to bed. And that's going to improve my sleep. You know what I mean? Like instead of the negative, focus on the positive. What can I add in? What can I do? And then get good at that.
Yep.
And then add more. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be I'm adding everything all at once. Just do one thing and it builds. And over the course of, it's fun to think about on our businesses. A year ago, what were we doing? Right? It wasn't, it's easy to look at people like John V, who's one of our mentors, who's been doing this online now for, I don't know, 5 years or something like that, and who's got just a raging business, to be like, oh, I got to do all these things, versus being like, all right, what's one thing that I could do? And so for me, it was, for instance, as an example, posting on social media. Yep. Okay. I was so infrequent with posting on social media, and not to say that this is a big business driver or anything like that, but I was like, I'm gonna post Monday through Friday. I don't think I can do 7 days, but I'm gonna post. I started with 3 days a week, then I went to 4 days a week, and then it was 5 days a week, and I was like, that's where I'm gonna live. And I've posted, I think I've missed 5 days in the last 9 months or something like that of the Monday through Friday that I've done. And again, the results aren't nuts, but I've doubled my, and this is not a good metric of whatever, but I've doubled my follower count, quote unquote, on Instagram in the last 9 months from doing this daily. And it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen all at once. It was just, you just kind of build it consistently. And I got better at it too. If I look back at my posts from, I'm sure you do this too, like you get the Facebook memories that pop up of stuff that you did from a couple, and you're like, oh man, that was a little rough. But you just get better at it too. And so doing the what can I do? And then once I got, all right, it's not really a question whether or not I'm going to post today. Even if I don't have anything good, I'm like, I can throw them together and put it on there. So then I can focus on the other thing. right? What's the next thing I got to do? All right, well, right now I'm like, I got to put together a website. I probably should have had a website already, but I'm going to put together a website, right? That's what I can then focus my energy on. So you can focus your energy on the next thing once you get good at the one thing. I don't know if
Yeah, no, I love
that was a
that.
little bit
It's
long-winded, but
no. That's exactly right. There's always something you can do. People always sort of say, "Oh, I don't know, getting into running, for example." The first thing they say is, "Well, I can't run 5K." Well, that's fine. You don't not expect you to run
yeah,
5K on day one. You start by, I don't
yeah,
know, a walk, run, walk, jog, whatever it might be. Just getting
yeah,
out there and start with the kilometer, and then you get longer, and then you get better, and you get quicker, and your stamina improves. Everything. There's always something you can do to be that 1% better. There's always
yeah. I
something you
remember you
can
said that.
do.
Love that.
It doesn't matter what it is, but there's always something you can do to progress forward. So no, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you coming on and talking to the listeners. Where can what's your
I got one more
go on?
I
Yeah,
got
go
one
for
more
it.
thing based on what you said there, guy, because I think this is the last thing of this is knowing where is good enough too. So
Yeah,
the 1% better every day too. So like you don't have to like just keep going with running as an example. You don't have to, if you run a 5K and that was what you wanted to do, like that could be fine. You don't have to keep going to a 10K or a half marathon or a marathon, right? If you're working out 3 days a week consistently, you don't have to go to 4.
no,
I'm working out 3 days a week right now. You know what I mean? And I've been training for a long time. You know, like there's a point of diminishing returns where you don't have to like keep, like you're not chasing perfection, you're just trying to get a little bit better, a little bit better. And so recognizing that those, I think we overestimate what it is that we need to do in order to see progress, and we underestimate the impact of some smaller things that we can do. So you'd be shocked at what some of these small changes can do. That 1% that adds up pretty quick.
it does.
So recognize that you don't need to go all the way to be doing what the elite bodybuilder crazy people are doing.
Yeah, you don't need that. It's almost like what we preach to our clients. It's the 80% rule. There's no need
Yeah.
to do anything 100%. 80% is all it needs to get outstanding results and being that 1%
Sure.
better. A lot of maths. 1%, 80%, all this maths is it's
The
a
old
bit
math
much.
teacher in me. I didn't get into I did an episode of mine where I started talking about like, you know, calorie numbers and stuff like that, and I was like, I should probably have done this like as a YouTube video with with like a whiteboard
With a
behind me.
whiteboard,
So I
yeah.
was like, if you're just listening to me, I'm just saying numbers right now. And I was like, this might have been a little bit in the weeds, but yeah, it was. I was like, there's some value in here if you can follow my numbers. But yeah, a lot of numbers.
That's brilliant. But no, so what's your socials? Obviously, I'll tag them in the show notes. So where can
Yeah.
everyone find you, Jeff?
Yeah, so it's Jeff Dalzell Fitness. Last name is Dalzell. On Instagram, or Jeff Dalzell on Facebook. I have a free Facebook group called the Fit and Present Parent Community. If you kind of search for that on Facebook, I'm putting some free stuff in there all the time. And then I have a podcast, the one that Guy was on, called the Dependable Dad Podcast, that you can find. I'm building on that. Really enjoy doing that, and going to continue to do that. So a
That's
couple places
awesome.
that you can find me there.
No, thank you so much, and I'll tag all of that in the show notes so you can go and follow him and listen to his podcast and see what he gets up to on social media. Watch his kid in the gym.
Yeah, yeah, man. I really appreciate you having me on, Guy. It's been awesome to chat.
No, thank you so much, and look forward to getting you on maybe again soon. And
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, thank you. And thanks everyone for listening.